The first breath of the day drifts across the horizon, so light it barely bends the grass. A pale, silver sky stretches above the land, its colors caught between night and morning. In the distance, shapes emerge from the dimness, stones worn smooth by the long patience of centuries. They stand in stillness, their surfaces marked by the quiet work of rain and wind, as if each grew were a word in a language no one now speaks. The air holds a faint chill that comes before sunrise, carrying the scent of damp earth and the hushed rustle of leaves that move only when the breeze allows. The ruins rise like thoughts half-remembered, their edges softened, their lines blurred by time. Around them, the world is unhurried. Shadows cling to the hollows, withdrawing slowly as the light gathers. A bird calls once and falls silent, as though unwilling to break the calm. The ground is uneven, scattered with small stones that shift underfoot, and in their movement there's a faintest echo to lives that once crossed here. There is no urgency in this place. Time flows at its own pace, unbound by our measures. It is settled here in layers, dust over stone, seasons over years, years over ages, each one bearing the last until the original truth is hidden beyond reach. And yet, somewhere within that layering, questions remain. They wait in the quiet like seeds under frost, needing only the right warmth to rise again. This is where every mystery begins, not in the finding, but in the wondering. The sand lies pale and weightless under the morning sun, shifting in slow waves around the base of the great Sphinx. It rests as if in mid-breath, a shape caught between lion and human, its gaze fixed on a horizon it has watched for thousands of years. The air is dry here, the silence broken only by the faint hiss of wind moving across the dunes. Its face is worn, not simply by the centuries of sandstorms, but by something older, something deeper, lines and grooves that seem to have been drawn by water, not wind. Around the Sphinx, the desert feels like an ocean that has withdrawn, leaving behind the solitary sentinel. The stone is warm beneath the sun, yet cool in the shadows where the day's light has not yet reached. It carries the scent of ancient dust, the faint mineral tang that clings to places untouched for ages. To stand before is to stand before a question carved into the earth itself, a question whose answer lies hidden in the changing patterns of rock, in the memory of rains that once fell here, long before Egypt knew the names of its kings. The hills of southeastern Anatolia roll gently under a pale sky, their slopes dressed in dry grass that whispers when a wind passes through. Beneath this quiet landscape, stones have waited for 12,000 years, their shapes hidden until careful hands began to draw them back into the light. Now, the great circles of Göbekli Tepe rise again, their towering pillars etched with animals. Foxes mid-step, cranes with wings outstretched, snakes curling in unending loops. Each figure is sharp even after millennia, as if the carver's breath still lingers on the stone. The air here smells of dust warmed by the sun, of earth freshly turned where archaeologists' brushes trace the edges of buried walls. Shadows gather in the hollows between the pillars, deep pools of stillness that seem to listen as the site reveals itself inch by inch. A low hum of wind moves across the plateau, touching the carved surfaces like a hand reading Braille. To stand within the circle is to feel the weight of a story older than cities, older than farming, a reminder that the roots of civilization reach farther into the past than we once dared to believe. The desert stretches out in every direction, a vast canvas of pale, sun-baked earth where the horizon wavers in the heat. From the ground, it appears empty, but from above, the land blooms with shapes, a hummingbird with wings unfurled, a monkey curling into itself, spirals that seem to wind toward infinity. Lines run straight for miles, so precise they look drawn with a ruler pressed against the skin of the earth. The air here is thin and dry, carrying no scent but that of warm dust, the kind that lingers in the mouth and clings to the skin. The ground beneath these drawings is made of dark stones, their surfaces oxidized by centuries under the sun. When they were pushed aside to reveal the lighter soil beneath, the contrast became a message, one that the desert has kept intact for over 1,000 years. The wind moves softly, lifting a few grains of sand but leaving the shapes untouched, as if it knows not to disturb them. From above, they look like thoughts too large to hold in words, messages meant for eyes that can see from the sky, written with patience, preserved by silence. Beneath the restless surface of the sea, the light changes. It bends and scatters, turning the water into a slow-moving tapestry of gold and blue. As the divers descend, the sound of the world above fades until only the steady rhythm of their breath remains. Each exhale a cloud of silver bubbles drifting toward the sun. Then out of the shifting blue, the stone appears, massive, layered, and stepped, as if carved into the likeness of a giant staircase. The edges are sharp in places, softened in others, worn by the endless patience of waves. Platforms stretch outward like decks awaiting their guests, and terraces drop away into shadowed depths where the light can no longer follow. Fish glide between the ledges, their movements quick flashes against the stillness of the rock. The stone feels deliberate under a gloved hand, each line too precise to ignore, each surface too broad to be an accident. Whether shaped by nature's slow persistence or by human ambition long before memory, it lies here in the quiet, the ocean its keeper, holding a question as old as the sea that now conceals it. The entrance yawns low and narrow, swallowing the light as we step inside. The air cools instantly, heavy with the dry scent of ancient stone and the faint, powdery taste of dust that has rested here for ages. The walls press close, their surfaces smooth in some places, rough in others, bearing the marks of hands that shaped them thousands of years ago. Each step echoes upward, a hollow sound swallowed quickly by the dark. The corridor tilts and narrows, leading us deeper into the body of the Great Pyramid. Shadows gather in the corners, thick and unmoving, as though they too have been here since the first stones were laid. Above the grand gallery lies a chamber unseen by human eyes for millennia, a space revealed only by the quiet probing of modern technology. Its dimensions are known, but its contents remain untouched, hidden behind stone that has not shifted in 4,000 years. We stand beneath millions of tons of rock, the weight pressing down in silence. The pyramid, so familiar in shape, still guard the heart of mystery, proving that even the most studied monuments can keep their deepest truths folded away, waiting for a time yet to come. It rests now behind glass. Fragments of corroded bronze fuse into shapes that seem almost accidental until gears within catch the light. The Antikythera mechanism, drawn from the silence of shipwreck, carries the weight of 2,000 years beneath the sea. Salt and time have worn its surfaces, but the delicate teeth of its wheels still speak of precision, of a mind that understood the movement of the heavens as clearly as the rhythm of the tides. We imagine the craftsman at his bench, the scent of hot metal lingering in the air, a thin curl of bronze shaving falling away beneath the file. Each gear is cut with care, each groove placed to catch the turning of another. Through this interlocking dance, eclipses could be foretold, the wandering of planets charted, the future traced in metal and motion. Around it, the sea once moved with slow indifference, wrapping it in silt and shadow until the day it was brought into the sun again. Holding it in view is like looking through a narrow window into a forgotten age, one in which the stars were not just watched, but measured and understood in ways we are only beginning to remember. Mist hangs low over the green, the air warm and heavy with the scent of wet earth and leaves. Through the jungle, the path narrows until it opens suddenly into a clearing, and there they are, great stone spheres resting in the grass, as if they had rolled here long ago and chosen to stay. Some are no larger than a bowl. Others rise to a person's chest, their roundness almost perfect despite the centuries. Moss creeps along their surfaces in soft green patches, its touch gentle against the cool stone. Rainwater gathers in shallow dents, reflecting small fragments of sky. The edges are smooth under fingertips, worn not by the chaos of nature, but by deliberate shaping. They lie without pattern to the eye, yet the feeling lingers that they were placed with purpose, a purpose lost to the passing of voices and years. Around them, the jungle keeps its distance. Birdsong fades here, and the wind moves softly, as though careful not to disturb the scene. Walking among them feels like moving through a silent gallery in the open air, each sphere a question, each question rooted deep in a time that will not speak its answers aloud. In the dim light of the museum, a clay jar sits alone, no taller than a man's hand, its surface pale and unassuming. Within its hollow form, long ago, rested a copper cylinder and an iron rod, the two held apart but close enough to speak to each other through the silent language of metals. Add an acidic liquid, and a faint current would stir, unseen but present, like a heartbeat beneath the skin. The air in the gallery is cool, carrying the faint scent of old stone and polished wood. But in the mind's eye it shifts to the narrow, sunlit streets of ancient Mesopotamia. There, a craftsman works in the glow of a small workshop, his fingers steady as he dips a piece of gold into a shimmering solution. The metal catches the light, brighter now, as though touched by something beyond the simple reach of his tools. Back in the present, the jar gives no sign of its truth. Whether it once powered an ancient art or merely stored something mundane, its silence is complete. Its clay walls hold the shape of a possibility, that the past may have known more than we imagine, and has simply chosen not to remind us. The sun falls heavy over the plain, turning the baked earth of sin into a vast sheet of gold and ochre. From a distance, the ruins of Mohenjo-daro rise gently from the ground, their outlines softened by centuries of wind and heat. As we step closer, the geometry emerges. Streets set in perfect right angles, their widths uniform, their surfaces worn smooth by countless footsteps long vanished. The bricks, sun-dried and neatly stacked, hold a faint memory of water. In the still air, it is almost possible to catch the scent of rain that once soaked these walls, the rare monsoon washing through a city alive with merchants, children, and craftsmen. The drainage channels run alongside the streets, their design precise, their purpose clear, as if the planners knew that order was its own form of survival. Yet the voices are gone. The markets are silent. The homes stand empty, their thresholds leading only to dust. Whether the people fled or faded, no trace of their final days remains. The wind moves gently through the lanes, carrying with it an echo that seems to rise from the bricks themselves. Not a sound, but a lingering presence, older than the questions it leaves behind. Under the bright, unyielding light of the desert, the copper scroll gleams faintly in its glass case. Unlike the fragile parchment of its companions, it bears the weight of hammered metal, its surface etched with words that do not pray or preach, but promise. Line after line names hidden places, valleys, cisterns, courtyards, each said to hold gold, silver, and vessels of sacred purpose. The letters are cut deep, the marks of a chisel still visible, as though the work were finished only yesterday. In the mind's eye, we return to the moment of its making. A figure bends over a sheet of copper, each stroke of the tool ringing softly in the air. The sun outside is white-hot, the scent of dust and heated stone drifting through the open door. The writer pauses, perhaps looking toward the hills where some of the treasures lie, before continuing, pressing each word into permanence. Now, the scroll rests in silence, its direction still intact yet stubbornly vague, its treasures, if they exist, untouched. The heat haze over the desert floor blurs every horizon, and the words themselves seem to shimmer as if they, too, are made of something precious and hidden. The entrance is narrow and unassuming, a shadow in the side of a hill. Stepping inside, the air cools at once, wrapping around the skin like a damp cloth. The scent is rich with minerals, the unmistakable smell of stone that has never felt the sun. As our eyes adjust, the scale of the space unfolds. Towering walls that rise in clean, unbroken planes, each surface patterned with neat, parallel chisel marks as if painted by an enormous, invisible hand. The chambers stretch out in all directions, their proportions so exact that the angles feel measured by something more precise than guesswork. Pools of still water rest at the lowest points, their surfaces unbroken, mirroring the pale shafts of light that fall from above. In these beams, the dust hangs motionless, every particle caught in a quiet suspension. No inscription names the builders. No record recalls the years when the stone rang under countless strikes of hammer and chisel. The silence is so complete it seems to lean in listening. Down here, time has no voice. The caves endure in a half-light, vast and empty, as though they were made not for people but for the earth itself. The jungle opens slowly, the dense green parting to reveal shapes that seem almost alive in the dappled light. Towering above the undergrowth, the Olmec heads emerge from shadow, massive blocks of basalt shaped into human faces, their features broad and solemn. Each one wears a helmet-like headdress, the smooth curve of it broken only by the marks of ancient tools. The stone is cool beneath the hand, its surface rough in places where time and weather left their trace, soft where moss has claimed it. They gaze forward with an unblinking intensity, eyes carved deep enough to hold shadow even at midday. Around them, the jungle hums with life. The trill of insects, the distant call of bird, the soft drip of water from unseen leaves. Yet the heads themselves are steeped in stillness. Their presence feels deliberate, as though they were set here to watch over something now long gone. No name, no inscription remains to tell us who they were. We stand in their quiet company, sensing that the air itself is heavier here, as if it carries the weight of the faces it has surrounded for centuries. The water here is dark long before the depth becomes great, a cold green that swallows light as quickly as it arrives. Beneath the waves, the temperature drops with every meter, the chill pressing close against the skin, seeping even to the thickest suit. The hum of the boat above fades until only the sound of our own breath remains, a slow rhythm in the muffled silence. Out of the gloom, a shape begins to emerge, broad, circular, and strange against the natural lines of seabed. Straight edges appear where there should be none, angles cut too cleanly for chance. A rise leads upward in what looks like steps, each one draped in a thin coat of silt, running a gloved hand along the surface. We feel grooves and ridges beneath the layers, textures that hint at intention rather than accident. The light from our torches catches on the edges, revealing only fragments before the dark closes in again. Down here, the cold is absolute, the stillness unbroken. Whatever the structure is, rock craft or something older still, the Baltic keeps it close, its secret wrapped in currents and silence. The dawn light spills slowly over the high plains, turning the frost on the grass into a shimmer of silver. In the thin air of the Andes, the site of Pumapunka lies quiet, its great stones scattered as if left mid-construction by a vanished hand. Some rest flat against the ground, their faces so smooth they reflect the early sun like muted mirrors. Others stand at odd angles, their edges meeting in lines, so exact they seem drawn with precision instrument. Moving closer, the details emerge, right angles as sharp as a blade's edge, grooves cut in perfect parallel, and interlocking shapes that fit together without mortar, as though they were pieces of a monumental puzzle. The stone underfoot is cold, its surface hard and unyielding, yet its craftsmanship feels impossibly delicate. The wind moves across the plateau, carrying with it the sound of distant bells from a grazing herd far below. In that sound is the same question the stones seem to hold. How did hands working without modern machines achieve such mastery? There is no answer here, only the quiet presence of a skill that came and went, leaving behind its mark in stone and silence. It rises in the still air of the gallery, a tall, slender figure of darkened wood, its surface lined with patterns that repeat like the steady beat of a drum. The Shigar idol has stood in silence for 12,000 years, its survival owed to the deep, preserving embrace of a peat bog. Now it leans gently toward the light, the grain of the larch gleaming faintly where the carvings cut across it. The symbols run in vertical bands, zigzags, chevrons, shapes that might be eyes or mountains, their meaning lost to all but the one who carved them. We imagined that figure long ago, seated before the fresh timber, the scent of resin thick in the air, the rhythmic scrape of stone against wood marking each thought. Outside, an ancient forest swayed in winds no one alive can remember. Here in the museum, the air smells faintly of varnish and quiet. The idol's gaze, if it can be called that, is fixed somewhere past us, toward a world that ended before ours began. Whatever truth it was meant to carry remains locked in its lines, a message carved for people who understood, and for no one else. The entrance is little more than a dark slit in the rock, easily missed among the soft hills of Cappadocia. Stepping inside, the daylight falls away behind us, replaced by the close, cool air of the earth. The walls close in quickly, their rough surfaces brushing the shoulders, the scent of dry stone and faint minerals growing stronger with every step. A narrow tunnel slopes downward, leading into the hidden depths where entire communities once lived unseen. The passage opens into a chamber, and then another, each connected by stairways and sloping corridors. Ventilation shafts pierce the stone like vertical rivers of air, carrying a faint, dry breeze from far above. Wells drop into darkness, their water once drawn for thousands of hidden lives. The deeper we descend, the quieter it becomes. Footsteps are swallowed instantly, voices fade to whispers. The stone seems to absorb sound, holding it for itself. Here, stables once held animals, kitchens fed families, Storage rooms kept grain cool and safe. Yet no record tells us who carved the city, or what fear or faith drove them underground. In the stillness, it feels less like an empty ruin than a place paused, waiting for its people to return. The parchment lies flat now under protective glass, its surface a pale yellow softened by 5 centuries. Inked coastlines wind across it in delicate, sure strokes, each curve an inlet drawn with the confidence of one who knows their shape. The Pyre Reefs map shows the edge of South America bending into the sea, and farther south, a coastline that some say belongs to Antarctica, drawn centuries before its discovery. We picture the admiral at his table, the room lit by the warm flicker of an oil lamp. Outside, the smell of salt and tar drifts in from the harbor, mingling with the sharper scent of drying ink. His pen moves steadily, tracing land he has never seen but knows from older, rarer charts, perhaps passed from hand to hand through generations. The paper's edges curl slightly in the heat, its surface thirsty for each drop of color. The lines he leaves behind carry more than geography. They hold the memory of voyages never recorded, of coastlines mapped by eyes long gone. The map endures, a blend of the known and impossible, whispering of a time when the world was larger, stranger, and full of hidden shores. The wind arrives first, sweeping in from the sea with a salt sting that clings to the skin. Beyond the dunes, the roofs of stone houses emerge in the earth, their low doorways opening into rooms that have not known a fire in thousands of years. Inside, stone beds still rest against the walls, hearts weigh at the center, and shelves stand ready to hold the tools of a life long vanished. The sand that once buried Scarabray has also kept it, sealing away its details until a violent storm tore the cover open in 1850. Now the village sits exposed to the gray sky, its lanes winding between walls built with the precision of habit and necessity. The air smells of seaweed and cold rock, the ocean's roar constant in the background. It feels as though the people here have only just stepped out, perhaps to mend a net or gather shellfish, and will return any moment. But the doorways remain empty, the silence unbroken except for the wind. The question of why they left lingers like the tide, always returning, never answered. The desert however lies flat and unbroken, its surface shimmering beneath the midday sun. Beneath this expanse, if ancient accounts are to be believed, rests a marvel beyond the reach of time, a labyrinth vast enough to swallow days in its corridors. Greek historians wrote of halls stretching in every direction, their walls alive with carvings of gods, kings, and creatures now only named in myth. Roofs of immense stone slabs pressed down from above, the weight of the ages held in their silence. We imagine stepping inside, the first echo of our footsteps rippling down passageways, so long the end cannot be seen. Light falls in slivers from unseen openings, catching on reliefs so finely cut they seem to move in the shifting glow. Doorways open into chambers heavy with the scent of dust, each one a sealed book no hand has turned in millennia. Above, the desert wind moves with patient indifference, brushing over the sands that may hide these walls forever. If the labyrinth still exists, it lies in the quiet company of the earth, waiting for the day when its paths are walked again, and its stories are spoken into the air once more. The avenue of the dead stretches ahead in a straight, unwavering line, its stones warm beneath the soles of our feet. On either side rise the remnants of temples and platforms, their outlines softened by time, yet still commanding in their scale. Far ahead, the pyramid of the sun lifts into the sky, its steps catching the morning light in broad, golden plains. The air carries a faint, dry scent of desert dust mixed with the heat of stone that has faced centuries of sun. Murals once bright with crimson, blue, and gold still cling to sheltered walls, their colors faded but their shapes intact. Jaguars in mid-leap, feathered serpents winding through fields of stylized flowers. This was once a city alive with markets, rituals, and voices, a place that drew thousands to live in its shadow. Yet no name for its builders remains, no clear record of its rulers or its end. As we walk, the shadows lengthen, stretching toward the mountains that frame the valley. Each step feels as though it is following someone else's path, worn smooth by countless feet long gone. Leading deeper into a mystery the stones themselves seem reluctant to share. In the quiet outskirts of Baalbek, the ground opens into a quarry where the work of another age lies frozen in place. Here, under the wide Lebanese sky, Rest stones so large they dwarf everything around them. Monoliths hewn with a precision that defies easy explanation. The greatest of them, the stone of the pregnant woman, stretches longer than a city bus and rises higher than a person's head. Its weight measured not in hundreds, but in over 1,000 tons. The sun spills across its pale surface, warming the stone until it radiates heat into the air. Every edge and plane bears the marks of tools wielded by hands long gone, yet the purpose and method remain hidden. A breeze drifts through the quarry, carrying the soft scent of nearby wildflowers and the faint hum of bees. Standing beside it, the scale feels almost unreal, the way a mountain feels when you are too close to see its peak. It speaks of ambition vast enough to move the immovable, of knowledge capable of commanding weight and form in ways we can no longer match. The stones wait in the open, their silence a testament to a challenge met in another time. The canoe glides forward with barely a ripple, its wooden hull parting the still water in silence. On either side rise the dark, towering walls of basalt, columns stacked neatly like the trunks of some petrified forest. They lean slightly with age, their surfaces slick with moss where the tide has brushed them for centuries. Nanmadel stretches across nearly 100 small islets, each one edged by these massive stones. The air here is heavy with the scent of salt and damp vegetation, the cries of seabirds softened by distance. Canals weave through the city like quiet streets, their reflections doubling the walls until it feels as though we are moving between two worlds, one above, one below. No written record tells how the builders moved such weight across open water, or why they chose to raise their city in the sea. The ocean hums faintly beyond the breakwater, its rhythm steady and eternal. Here inside the canals, that sound is muted, as if the water itself is holding its breath. Nanmadel rests in this quiet balance, the tide's slow pulse keeping time for a city long emptied of its people. The hills of Allura rise in gentle slopes, their dark basalt faces catching the sun in warm, muted tones. From above, the Kailasa temple seems to emerge from the earth itself, carved downward into the living rock as if released from within. Its courtyards, pillars, and towering sanctuaries are all part of a single continuous stone, a feat so vast and precise it feels less like construction and more like revelation. Stepping inside, the air cools instantly. Shadows gather in the deep recesses of the halls, broken only by shafts of light that fall through carved openings. Every surface tells a story. Gods amid battle, elephants in procession, floral patterns curling into perfect symmetry. The stone under the fingertips is cool and faintly rough, each groove a trace of the chisel that made it. Somewhere within, a bell rings, deep, resonant, its sound lingering like a slow breath. A faint scent of incense drifts through the corridors, mingling with the mineral smell of the rock. The mind turns over the same question again. How did hands working with simple tools bring forth such a perfect, intricate vision from a single, unbroken mass of stone? The answer, like the temple, remains rooted in silence. The hills of Allura hold their secrets in layers of rock, the dark basalt rising in quiet slopes against the sky. From their surface, the Kailasa temple seems almost impossible, a structure not built stone by stone, but released whole from the earth, carved downward into a single unbroken mass. Towers, colonnades, and chambers emerge seamlessly from the same bed of rock, as if the mountain itself had been persuaded to take the shape of devotion. Inside, the air is cool and still, carrying the faint mineral scent of stone mixed with a whisper of incense drifting from the inner shrine. Pillars rise in perfect symmetry, their surfaces alive with carvings, scenes from the Ramayana and Mahabharata, celestial beings in flight, elephants and lions caught in mid-motion. The chisel marks are gone, smoothed away by time and touch, leaving only the forms and the stories they tell. Somewhere in the temple's heart, a bell tolls once, its deep tone folding into the silence like a heartbeat in stone. Light slips in from above, falling in narrow columns across the floor. Standing here, it is easy to believe the legends, that such mastery could not be the work of ordinary time, but of a moment touched by something beyond. The highlands roll in soft green and gold, the grasses bending in unison beneath the steady hand of the wind. Rising from this landscape, the walls of Great Zimbabwe curve in sweeping arcs, their granite blocks laid without mortar, yet holding as firmly as if bound by iron. The stones fit together with quiet perfection, each one chosen and placed with a care that speaks of skill passed down through generations. Within these walls, narrow passageways twist and turn, guiding the feet as if through the folds of a great stone tapestry. The air carries the dry rustle of grass from beyond the enclosure, mingling with the faint scent of warm rock. Sunlight moves slowly across the stone faces, deepening the shadows in their crevices and bringing the pale flecks of granite to life. This was once a city of markets and courts, its wealth carried on the trade winds from distant lands. Now, its grandeur lingers in silence, the dignity of a kingdom that has not vanished so much as transformed into memory. Walking here, it feels less like visiting ruins and more like stepping into a throne room where the ruler has simply not yet returned. The entrance is unremarkable, hidden among the streets of Paula, but a narrow passage soon draws us downward into shadow. The air cools as we descend, taking on the dry, faintly metallic scent of old stone. The walls are carved smooth from the pale limestone, their curves guiding the way as though they were shaped to fit the passage of human hands. On the first level, chambers open like petals from a central corridor. Deeper still, the light thins until there's only a dim glow against the walls. A drop of water falls at long intervals, its sound sharp in the silence, each drip a measured time that has little to do with the world above. In certain rooms, a single note held by a voice lingers for long seconds, reverberating through the air as if the stone itself were answering. Faint traces of red ochre cling to the carvings, spirals, curves, and door-like shapes that suggest threshold between realms. Thousands of bones once rested here, the living and the dead sharing these halls in different ways. The hypogeum feels less like a ruin than a vessel, still carrying the weight of ceremonies whose meaning has long since passed from memory. In the quiet rooms where they are kept, the wooden tablets of Easter Island lie beneath soft light, their surfaces lined with rows of intricate glyphs. Each symbol is carved with steady precision, figures of people, animals, plants, and shapes whose meanings are now lost. The wood has deepened in color over the centuries, its grain rising faintly where the blade once pressed. The edges are rounded and smooth, worn by the hands that held them long before they became artifacts. In the mind's eye, we return to the moment of their creation. A scribe seated on the packed earth, the firelight casting slow-moving shadows across his work. His hand moves with practiced rhythm, the sound of carving a steady companion to the low murmur of voices in the distance. Each mark carries a meaning he knows will be understood by those who come after him. But that understanding has vanished. No living tongue can give voice to these lines. The script rests in silence, its stories locked away, waiting for someone to speak its language again. Until then, the tablets remain like messages cast into an ocean of time, drifting endlessly without an answer. The cave mouth is narrow, a dark seam in the hillside, and the air that spills from it is cool and heavy. Inside, the light fades quickly, replaced by a dim, muted glow from headlamps glancing off wet stone. The air smells of damp earth and ancient minerals, a scent untouched by sun or wind for thousands of years. Footsteps are muffled on the uneven floor, and the silence seems to settle more deeply with every step inward. It is here in the stillness that the claw was found, massive, curved, and sheathed in skin that still clings to bone. The sinews, tendons, and muscle remain, their texture and color preserved as though they had been set aside only yesterday. Its surface is cool under the fingers, the curve of it ending in a point sharp enough to imagine in motion. This belonged to the moa, a bird taller than a man, gone for the earth for centuries. In the dim light of the cave, the claw seems less like a relic than a living thing caught in paws, as if the bird might step forward from the shadows at any moment, shaking off the long sleep of extinction. The hill above Cusco opens into a vast terrace where the walls of Sacsayhuaman rise in great zigzag lines. Each block is immense, some as tall as a person, others many times larger, yet they fit together with precision that seems to deny the passage of time. The joints curve and twist in patterns that feel almost fluid, as though the stone had once been poured into place like water and left to harden in the sun. Running a hand along their surface, the coolness seeps into the skin, the texture alternating between smooth planes and weathered edges. Above, the sky is a deep Andean blue, the wind steady and dry, carrying the scent of sun-warmed grass and the faint promise of rain from far-off valleys. These walls have faced centuries of storms, seasons, and the shudder of earthquakes, yet they hold fast, each stone gripping its neighbors without mortar. Standing here, it is difficult to separate the human from the monumental. The craftsmanship feels both deliberate and beyond ordinary scale. The knowledge that shaped this place remains embedded in the rock itself, silent and enduring, a skill that has outlasted both its makers and the world they once knew. The hillside rolls gently under a sky washed pale by drifting clouds. Across its slope, the white horse lies stretched in elegant lines, its long body and flowing tail etched into the earth itself. The figure gleams against the green, the exposed chalk catching the sunlight, so brightly it seems to glow. From the valley below, it appears timeless, as though it has always been part of the land. From above, its curves seem to shift and ripple with the contours of the hill, as if the horse were in mid-stride. We picture the ancient hands that first made it, scraping away the turf with simple tools, the scent of fresh earth rising as the chalk came into view. Voices might have carried on the wind, mixing with the low clang of distant bells from the village far below. The work would have been careful, deliberate, each line placed with meaning now lost to us. For more than 3,000 years, the figure has been renewed by those who came after, its shape kept alive though its purpose remains untold. The horse gazes forever toward the horizon, a silent emblem whose message is faded, leaving only beauty and wonder behind. The land here is open and raw, the sea pressing against the shore in a steady rhythm that has not changed in 1,000 years. Low turf-roofed houses rise from the ground as if grown from it, their walls blending seamlessly into the wind-swept earth. The grass underfoot is short and wiry, bent by the constant push of the wind. Above, seabirds wheel and cry, their voices sharp against the steady hush of the waves. Inside the reconstructed dwellings, the air smells faintly with smoke and earth, the low ceilings holding in the warmth. Artifacts unearthed here, iron nails, a spindle whorl, fragment of worked wood, speak quietly of hands that came from across the ocean. This place, Lance Meadows, confirms what once seemed only legend, that Norse ships reached North America long before Columbus. Yet the story is incomplete. How far did they travel beyond this shore? What drew them here, and what drove them to leave? The wind carries no answers, only the salt and cold of the sea. The houses sit quietly under the wide northern sky, holding the memory of a brief chapter in a much older journey. Beneath the restless surface of the Arabian Sea, shapes begin to take form in the shifting green. The water is hazy here, grains of silt swirling in the slow current, catching the light that filters down in muted shafts of gold. As the divers move closer, the outlines sharpen, steps carved into stone, columns leaning at angles, and low walls tracing the edges of streets no longer walked. Coral blooms across the surfaces, its branching forms softening the hard lines of the structures. Schools of silver fish drift through open doorways, their movement quiet and unhurried, as if they, too, belong to the city. Sea fans sway gently in the corridors, brushing against the stone as though sweeping it clean. Legends tell of Dvarka, a city built by Krishna, vibrant and magnificent until the sea rose to claim it. Whether these ruins are remnants of that tale or of a city forgotten by history, the ocean now keeps them. The water presses close, muffling every sound but the diver's breath. Above, the surface glitters in the sun, but down here, time is stilled and the city rests in the slow, eternal rhythm of the tide. The hills rise and fall in gentle waves, their slopes wrapped in a blanket of soft green. At first, the shape is hidden, the curves blending into the land as though they have always been part of it. Only when the ground begins to climb and the air opens wide above do the lines reveal themselves. The long, coiled body of a serpent, its curves unbroken for nearly a quarter mile. From the higher ground, the form is unmistakable. The serpent's body winds across the earth, narrowing and widening in deliberate measure, ending in a great head whose open mouth encircles a rounded mound. Some say it is swallowing the sun. Others believe it is offering it. The grass shifts in the wind, soft shadows flowing along the ridges as if the serpent were breathing. No record names its makers or explains its purpose. It may have been a calendar, its curves aligned with the movements of the heavens, or a monument to beliefs now beyond our reach. In the fading light of evening, The shadows lengthen and ripple, and the great serpent seems to stir, not in movement, but in the quiet persistence of its presence. It sits beneath the soft lights of a museum case, a circle of baked clay no larger than 2 hands laid side by side. Across its surface runs a spiral, winding inward in careful steps, each segment stamped with small, precise symbols. There are figures of men, birds, plants, tools, and shapes whose meaning is lost. The impressions are clean, their edges still sharp, despite the thousands of years they have carried their silence. In the mind's eye, we return to the day it was made. A craftsman leans over the clay, turning the disc slowly in his hands. With each turn, he presses a carved stamp into the surface, the sound of faint, muffled tap. The spiral grows, line by line, a path of signs meant to be read in an order now forgotten. Perhaps the words were meant to be spoken aloud, their rhythm and tone carrying as much meaning as the shapes themselves. Now, the disc rests unmoving, its spiral pulling the gaze inward like a quiet maze with no clear center. It offers no key, no translation, only the enduring certainty that someone long ago had something important to say. The fields of Brittany roll out beneath a pale sky, their green expanse broken by lines of stone that march across the land. Thousands of them, standing in long, parallel rows, some rising well above a person's head, others barely reaching the knee before disappearing into the grass. They have been here for over 6 millennia. Their purpose is fixed and mysterious as their position. Walking among them, the air feels strangely hushed, the open sky above seeming to press down in quiet expectation. The surfaces of the stones are rough beneath the fingers, cold even in sunlight, their flanks freckled with patches of lichen that have taken centuries to grow. The grass moves gently around their bases, the wind carrying with it the faint scent of salt from the distant coast. In the low light of morning or evening, the stones throw long, thin shadows that stretch far ahead, as though pointing towards something beyond the horizon, a place not marked on any map. Whether they mark the stars, seasons, or ceremonies now forgotten, the Karnak stones keep their lines unbroken, holding steady in the rhythm of the land and the slow turning of the earth. The Voynich manuscript rests in its glass case, a thick, weathered book bound in faded covers, its pages tinted the soft yellow of centuries-old parchment. Across each sheet runs a flowing script unlike any other, looping, delicate characters that belong to no known language. The ink is steady, the spacing precise, as though copied from a mind well practiced in its form. Around the words, illustrations spill into margins, plants with curling stems and impossible blossoms, constellations scattered in unfamiliar patterns, and small human figures bathing in pools of green water that ripple only on the page. In the mind's eye, we see the scribe seated at a wooden table, a candle's flame dancing low, the scent of warm wax and ink mingling in the air. The quill moves with quiet purpose, dipping and gliding, recording a knowledge no one else has learned to read. Outside the narrow window, the world follows the rules we know. Inside the manuscript, those rules bend gently into something stranger. Turning a page is like stepping across a threshold into a garden where nothing grows as expected. The door into that world remains firmly shut, yet the book waits patiently, as if confident the right reader will someday arrive. The shoreline is quiet now, the waves rolling in with a rhythm too steady to betray the violence they once carried. In the winter of 373 BCE, this was the edge of a thriving Greek city. Streets lit by oil lamps, voices echoing in courtyards, the scent of baked bread and salt drifting together in the air. Then, without warning, the earth trembled and the sea rose to claim it. Legends say Helice sank in a single night, the water swallowing homes, temples, and marketplaces, leaving only darkness where the city lights had burned. For centuries, sailors claimed they could see its ruins beneath the waves on clear days, columns and roofs still standing in the silent deep. Today, its stones lie buried under layers of silt, unearthed slowly by careful hands. Standing on the shore, the salt air fills the lungs heavy and sharp, while gulls circle overhead. The water laps gently at the sand, each wave collapsing in a soft rush, as though whispering the city's last words. The land holds no visible trace, but the horizon seems to remember, carrying the ghost of a skyline just beyond the reach of sight. The Atacama stretches in every direction, a vast plain of dust and stone under a sky, so clear it feels endless. The air is bone dry, carrying no scent, no hint of moisture, only the sharp heat of the sun pressing down on the land. From the ground, the desert seems bare, but from the surrounding hills, shapes emerge, etched into the earth in lines that have endured for centuries. Figures of animals stride across the desert floor, their outlines simple yet deliberate. Geometric forms spread like silent maps, their angles and curves too precise to be accidents. And towering above them all is the Atacama giant, a human-like figure hundreds of feet tall, its eyes turned toward the horizon as though keeping watch over the barren expanse. The sun leaches color from everything, leaving the ground in muted tones, the geoglyphs standing out in crisp contrast. Their scale and clarity defy the wind and time, surviving in a place where nothing moves quickly. No one knows if they mark seasons, guided travelers, or serve as offerings to the sky. They remain where they were made, the desert's patient designs, speaking in a language as spare and enduring as the land itself. The surface of Lake Titicaca glitters in the high-altitude sun, its deep blue stretching toward distant mountains. Below, the world changes. The water cools sharply with depth, pressing against the body in a slow, steady weight. Sound fades to a muted thrum, the diver's breath, the faint hiss of bubbles rising toward the sky. Out of the dim water, shapes begin to form. Terraces stepping down into the lake bed, stone walls tracing the outlines of rooms and roads that have not felt a footstep in centuries. Their edges are softened by time, but their patterns are clear enough to speak of purpose. Fish flicker in and out of cracks in the stone, flashes of silver in the green-gold haze. Strands of lakeweed drift lazily in the current, brushing against the stone like strands of hair stirred by a slow wind. Legends tell cities built here before the Incas, some said to have sunk in a single night. Whether these ruins belong to that memory or another, they lie in stillness at the roof of the world, suspended between myth and history, waiting beneath the cold, clear water for the day their story will rise again. In the quiet light of the museum, the Trundholm Sun chariot rests behind glass, its form small yet full of presence. A bronze horse, slender-legged and finely made, pulls a thin, gilded disc that catches and softens the overhead light. The gold is worn now, its once bright surface mottled with the patina of centuries, but it still holds a trace of the warmth it must have caught when it first turned in the sun. Over 3,000 years ago, it may have stood in a temple lit by fire, the flicker of flames dancing across the gold as the chariot was moved in a slow, deliberate circle. The air would have smelled of burning wood and the faint tang of metal, the murmured voices of worshippers rising like wind through tall grass. Its purpose remains uncertain. Perhaps a symbol of the sun's passage across the sky, perhaps an object used in rituals that measure the year by light. What is certain is that the hands that shaped it looked upward to the same sky we see now, wondering at the same rising and setting sun, and chose to give that wonder a form it could hold in their own world. In the dim, hushed space of the library, the Codex Gigas rests upon a massive wooden stand, its size alone enough to draw a breath of disbelief. Bound in thick leather darkened by centuries, it carries the faint scent of old parchment dust and the slow passing of time. The cover creaks as it opens, revealing pages nearly a meter tall, each one filled with lines of perfectly even script, as though the same steady hand wrote for years without pause. Nestled among the sacred texts, medical treatises, and historical records lies the image that has given the book its name, a full-page portrait of the devil, rendered with curling horns, wide eyes, and claws resting on the empty space around him. The figure seems to watch on the page, its gaze steady no matter where one stands. Legends whisper that the manuscript was made in a single night by a monk who traded his soul, yet the truth, whatever it may be, lies bound within these heavy covers. Turning each oversized page feels like stepping across a threshold into a chamber dimly lit, where the air grows colder and the silence deepens, as though you have entered where you should not linger. The path into Petra winds through the sick, a narrow gorge where the sandstone walls rise high above, streaked with shades of red, gold, and violet. The air here is cooler, the sunlight narrowed into thin ribbons that shift as the canyon bends. Each step echoes softly against the rock, the sound swallowed by the twist of the passage. Then, almost without warning, the view opens and the treasury stands before you, its towering facade carved directly into the rose-colored cliff. Columns rise in perfect symmetry, their edges softened by time, but still commanding. In the shifting desert light, the stone glows as if lit from within, the color deepening and fading with the passing hours. Beyond the treasury, the city unfolds in a maze of tombs, temples, and halls, their doorways leading into shadows that reveal little. The scent of sun-warmed sandstone lingers in the air, mingling with the dry breeze that moves through the open spaces. Petra was a hub of trade, a meeting point of worlds, but much of its purpose remains veiled. Here, doors open onto silence, and the cliffs keep their stories pressed tightly in the stone, telling them only in shapes and light. The sea off Bimini is a clear, endless blue, the sunlight piercing deep and scattering into ripples of gold. Beneath the surface, the sandy floor stretches smooth and pale until it meets a line of massive rectangular stones. They sit end to end, their edges straight enough to seem deliberate, their surfaces warmed by centuries of tide and current. Swimming above them, the water feels warm against the skin, the slow push and pull of the ocean guiding each movement. The stones cast long, dark shadows across the sand, their forms broken here and there by gaps where smaller fish dart through. Schools of silver glint in the light, moving in unison, weaving between the blocks as though this path has always belonged to them. Some say these stones are only the work of nature, fractured and shaped by the sea's slow patience. Others believe they're the remains of a road, a wall, or the boundary of a city swallowed by the ocean. Perhaps even the lost Atlantis. Whatever their origin, they lie here in the quiet sway of the water, marking a path to somewhere we can no longer follow, a road leading only deeper into mystery. The highlands of Laos rise in soft, green swells, their slopes shrouded in morning mist. Scattered across these rolling fields are the jars, great cylinders of stone, some taller than a person, others low and wide, their rims worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. They stand alone or in small groups, as if placed by an unseen hand in patterns we no longer understand. The air is cool and damp, carrying the scent of rain-soaked grass and earth. A thin fog moves between the jars, curling gently around their bases before dissolving in the pale light. Some lie on their sides, split or cracked, the lines of their break worn soft by time. Others hold shallow pools of rainwater, their surfaces reflecting small fragments of sky. No one knows for certain why they were made, whether to hold grain, water, or the ashes of the dead, and the absence of answers makes them feel like the fragments of a forgotten story. Walking among them is like moving to the pages of a book whose words have faded, where only the shapes remain, silent and unmoving, waiting for the rest of the tale to return. Beneath the unblinking gaze of the Sphinx, the desert lies still, its surface of skin stretched tight over secrets long buried. Legends speak of a hidden chamber carved deep into the bedrock beneath its paws, the Hall of Records, said to hold the lost wisdom of Atlantis or the earliest kings of Egypt. No eye has seen it, yet whispers persist, fed by the faint anomalies revealed in modern scans. In the mind's eye, a narrow entrance opens into the earth, the air cooling as we descend. The flicker of torchlight dances across the walls, catching in the motes of dust that hang suspended in the stillness. Shelves line the passage. They would darken with age, heavy with scrolls whose papyrus edges crumble at the slightest touch. The air smells of dry stone, and the faint sweetness of things long sealed away. Above, the desert wind slips over the Sphinx's back, tracing the same path it has followed for thousands of years. It carries the warmth of the sun and the cold of the night, and perhaps, hidden within its breath, the memory of words once spoken in the depths, words the sand has kept and will keep until the time comes to speak them again. Beneath the gentle surface of the Laconian Gulf, the outlines of Pavlopetri lie in perfect stillness. The water here is shallow and clear, the sandy seabed broken by straight lines and right angles that mark streets, courtyards, and foundations of homes. Sunlight ripples across the stone, shifting with the motion of the waves above, turning the ancient city into a living mosaic of light and shadow. Swimming over its lanes, the shapes remain so intact that it is easy to imagine the people who once walked here, traders, children, families moving between markets and hearths. Doorways open into what were once rooms, their stone thresholds worn smooth by countless steps. Tombs rest nearby, their outlines softened but unmistakable, holding the silence of centuries. The sea moves softly over stones, its current carrying only sand and occasional dark fish weaving through an alleyway. There is no sense of ruin here, only a pause, as though the city has simply been set aside for a time. In the quiet shimmer of the water, Pavlopetri feels less like a place lost to history and more like one waiting for its people to return. The stories come from every corner of the world, carved into tablets, woven into songs, spoken beside fires as the night deepens. In Mesopotamia's Epic of Gilgamesh, the waters rise without mercy, swallowing cities and fields. In the tale of Noah, the rain falls for 40 days, the ark carrying its living cargo above a drowned world. In distant lands, from the mountains of China to the coast of the Americas, different names are given, but the shape of the story is the same, a flood that ends one age and begins another. We picture the sky darkening, clouds gathering in layers so thick they erase the sun. The air grows heavy with the scent of rain before the first drop falls. Then the water comes, in sheets, in torrents, in waves that climb over walls and hills. Houses vanish, trees disappear, and the horizon shrinks until there is nothing but gray and the restless surface of the sea. Whether these tales are echoes of real disasters or allegories for renewal, they endure as one of humanity's oldest memories. The flood, in every telling, becomes both an ending and a beginning, carrying forward the story of those who survived to speak it. The high desert stretches wide, under a sky, so clear it feels endless. In the heart of this expanse, Chaco Canyon opens like a stone amphitheater, its walls glowing in shades of gold and rust beneath the midday sun. Rising from the canyon floor are the great houses, massive stone structures with hundreds of rooms, their walls stacked with careful layers of sandstone, each piece fitted as though placed in quiet conversation with the next. The roads leading here run arrow straight for miles, cutting across the desert with a precision that ignores the natural curves of the land. They converge on plazas where ceremonies once drew people from far and wide, the air filled with voices, drums, and the scent of burning cedar. Now, the plazas stand empty. The wind moves gently through the doorways, carrying the dry, resin-sweet breath of sagebrush. The heat radiates from the stones, and the silence deepens until it seems to press lightly against the skin. No one knows for certain why Chaco was left behind, whether drought conflict or something unrecorded. What remains is a city carved from desert and time, still holding the space where its people once stood. The great ziggurat of Ur rises from the desert floor in precise, receding tiers, its shape both geometric and monumental against the flat horizon, built of sun-baked mud brick. The structure once gleamed with bright colors, its walls coated in layers of fired brick that caught the light of the Mesopotamian sun. Now, its hues are muted, sandy golds and earthen reds blending into the landscape, but its presence remains commanding. The restored steps climb upward in steady rhythm, each one lifting you above the empty plain. The air is warm and dry, filled with a faint scent of dust and the more distant trace of water drifting from the Euphrates. At the summit, the view spreads for miles in every direction. Flatland shimmering in heat, the skies stretched wide and pale. This was once the temple of Nana, the moon god, where rituals bound the city to the divine. The details of those rites have faded from record, leaving only the structure itself as witness. Standing here, the tiers below and the desert beyond, it is easy to imagine the ziggurat as both a stairway and a bridge, a place where the earth reached upward toward the gods. In the half-light of Forge, the air thick with heat and the scent of burning charcoal, Damascus steel once came to life. The metal began as raw ingots, heated until they glowed the color of sunrise, then hammered, folded, and shaped in a rhythm as old as the craft itself. Each strike of the hammer rang out like a note, the sound carrying through the workshop as sparks leapt into the air. Slowly, the blade would take form, its surface revealing the distinctive flowing patterns, waves, ripples, and swirls that caught the light like water in motion. These blades were prized not only for their beauty, but for their unmatched sharpness and resilience. Warriors carried them into battle. Merchants traded them across continents. Yet the method of their making, the precise combination of ore, heat, and skill, slipped away by the 18th century, leaving only the finished works as a record. Today, surviving Damascus blades rest in museums and private collections, their patterns still shimmering under glass. They hold in their steel the memory of a lost mastery, the knowledge locked within their tempered curves, silent but enduring, waiting for hands that can awaken it once more. At dawn on the Salisbury Plain, a pale mist clings low over the grass, beating each blade with silver. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of damp earth, and the horizon glows in the softest shades of rose and gold. Slowly, the sun edges upward, spilling its first light to the towering stones of Stonehenge. The alignment is precise, the beam falling exactly between two uprights as though the structure itself is guiding the day into being. The stones are massive, weathered by thousands of seasons, their surfaces etched with the quiet patience of time. Lichen clings to their bases, and the wind sighs as it threads through the trilithons, a sound as old as the monument itself. Standing within the circle, it is impossible not to feel the weight of intention, that this place was built for something greater than stone and soil. Some believe it marked the turning of a year, others that it held the power to heal or to connect the living with the dead. Whatever its purpose, Stonehenge stands as a silent clock, a temple of light and shadow, holding fast to a truth it will never quite reveal. The path winds back to stillness, the kind that feels almost deliberate, as if the earth itself pauses to let you listen. All around, the mysteries we have visited linger in the mind. Stone circles where the sun still keeps its appointments, lost cities dreaming beneath waves, carvings that speak in languages no one remembers. The wind moves softly through this gallery of silence, carrying the weight of centuries without hurry. From the heat of the desert to the chill of deep water, from mountaintops brushed by clouds to forests heavy with moss, the traces of those before us remain, steadfast, unyielding, yet fragile in their own way. Each site is more than stone, metal, or clay. Each is a pulse of memory, the residue of lives lived with purpose we can only guess at. The light fades gently now, washing the land in the gold of an ending day. Questions remain like stars not yet risen, waiting for their moment. Perhaps the answers will come, perhaps not. The ancients have given us their silence, and in that silence is an invitation to wonder, to search, and to listen for echoes that have never stopped speaking.